Hi, Trapnest here. Welcome to my 28 Days Later music production course, where I will be teaching you everything you need to know to become a full-time music producer, from creating entire songs to developing your own brand and creating a business plan. In my last video, I talked a little bit about some of the things I do to improve my workflow, like keeping my space clean or just getting rid of files I don't need. In this video, I want to talk about mindset, but instead of giving you 7 tips to improve your mindset and become a musician, I'll rather accompany those ideas, those concepts, with a personal story, and hopefully this is helpful to you. If it is, then don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram for more content like this. When I was 23, I took a sabbatical year so I can only focus on making music. I didn't want to work, I didn't want to do absolutely anything but spend all day in my room creating music. At that time, I used to stay all night watching anime or listening to music, and I will be able to catch up a couple of hours of sleep during the day until I was woken up by the screams of a hysterical lady that was my landlord, and she would scream to her child for BS like leaving the cap of the milk. By 1 p.m., I could finally gather enough energy to sit down and start producing. By 1:30, I will finally start getting in the zone. Like, I will be extremely focused on my work. I will be coming up with these ideas that I will get really excited, even though they were just 8-bar loops. But I was so excited that I used to think this was it. This was the track that will get me out of poverty and just make me a superstar, and that all my dreams will come true, and so on and so on. A little bit later, my phone will start ringing. It was the Chinese food that I ordered as soon as I woke up by noon. And then I will start eating viciously. Like, I wouldn't stop eating until I was so full that the thought of another bite would just make me throw up. So at that point, I was feeling like crap, like I had a greasy food overeating induced coma, and of course, all I wanted to do at that point is just go back to bed and keep watching some more anime or TV shows. I will stay in bed for like 2 more hours and then try to go back to work, try to go back to the song I was working on. But at that point, my body was feeling so shitty and I didn't have any energy, and I was also so depressed that all I managed to do is just sit in front of my computer and zoning out until I inevitably went back to watching random YouTube videos or watching some more anime. By 8 p.m. I was hungry again, and I either ate some Chinese leftovers or I starved myself until next day. Either way, I always had some alcohol with me, so I will start drinking, trying to get that productivity boost, and actually it will help me for like 15-20 minutes before I started getting drunk. And all I wanted to do is just getting drunker while listening to music or watching some more anime. And then next morning by 8 a.m., the screams of a hysterical lady will wake me up, rinse and repeat, and that was my life for pretty much like a year. Before I realized it, my sabbatical was almost done, and can you guess how many projects I managed to finish during this entire year? I'll give you a hint. It was less than 1 project. Yep, I didn't manage to finish a single project, even though I had all the time in the world to work on this. My biggest accomplishment was 3 semi-done ideas that were kind of interesting, and a folder full of 16-bar loop ideas that went absolutely nowhere. Time is money is probably one of the catchphrases I hate the most in life. I used to hear it from all my boring bosses in all my boring jobs. So the way I've learned to see it is that actually money is time. Like ex-president of Uruguay, Jose Mujica said, when we buy something, we don't buy it with money. We buy it with the time we had to spend on getting that money. And I had to learn this lesson the really hard way. When I just got into the country on my 20s, I got into so much debt that I had to work on multiple shitty jobs just so I can afford to survive. It was so bad that I would have to work for 1 week just to be able to pay the interest on my credit cards. And it took me like 4 years to get myself out of that situation. And it's in great part thanks to learning to live within my means. So now, every time that I'm gonna spend money on something, I ask myself, if my basic expenses are, let's say, $600 a month, is buying a $600 65-inch TV worth more than 1 month of free time I could use to work on my music? Is this new TV worth more than the amount of time I had to work in the first place to get this money? If the answer is no, then I don't spend money on that thing. Being productive is not about working 8, 12 hours every single day, every single week. No, the amount of hours that you work at something is completely irrelevant. What matters is what you do during those hours. When I started doing music as a full-time job, I would spend like 6 to 8 hours in the studio. Now, you'll think that with all this time, I will get something done, right? Nope. I managed to get done at most 1 or 2 hours of work. The rest of my time, I will spend it playing video games, watching a show, or just staring at my screen like an idiot. If this last part sounds familiar, it's because it is. It's exactly the same I was doing years ago when I took my sabbatical. One of the main reasons why I haven't been able to accomplish anything on all these years is because I have the bad habit of giving myself impossible tasks, because I used to think that, okay, if I put myself this ambitious plan, then I'm gonna work really hard and I'm gonna accomplish marvelous things, only to find out that after 1 week or 2 weeks, I will abandon my project. I will get so burned out that I will lose all my motivation and desire to do this thing I was really excited at the beginning. So my advice to you is start small. Even with 30 minutes of uninterrupted focused work, you can get a lot done if you are constant. The more you do it, the better you become at it. Just don't try to run a 5K marathon when you can't even manage to finish 1K. Uncertainty is one of the biggest obstacles, if not the biggest one, that you will have to overcome if you want to become a full-time musician, especially if you planning to do this as a freelancer. When I started, I didn't have a clue of how much money I would be making every month. There were times where I would make really good money in 1 month, and then the next 2 months would be really crappy. So bad that I was barely able to cover the cost of the rent of the studio. And some months I wouldn't even make a single penny from my studio. I never knew who I was gonna to work with. Was it going to be a here is $40 for an entire song, make me sound like in the radio type of artist? Was it going to be an artist that just wanted to create music for the sake of creation, or someone that was looking to create that one song that will make him viral sensation? Was it gonna be someone that gets happy with anything as long as it's loud, or someone that will push me to my limits with just the amount of crazy yet amazing ideas that they had? When I started, I was constantly wondering, am I gonna be able to survive long term like this, even though I only have enough money to pay the next 2 months of rent? How about 5 years from now? Do I really see myself making music for a living 10 years from now? The only thing that kept me sane during all these years of uncertainty was having faith that I will make things work somehow. If you don't believe that things will be okay after you make a change in your life, like moving to a new place or quitting your job to pursue your dream career, then it will be near impossible to even take the first step, let alone to create a sustainable career. But don't mistake optimism with ingenuity. Optimism comes from a place of confidence developed by the experience that you can accomplish a goal. Ingenuity is quitting your job even though you've never earned a cent out of your passion. The reason why I was able to make it work was because at that point in my life, I already knew I could get entire projects done in a determined amount of time. Plus, at that point, I've already been making some side income with music related services, and I even opened a music studio with a good friend of mine. I didn't have any of this when I took my sabbatical, and that's why I felt so miserably. So yeah, after you have prepared yourself, you just have to take a leap of faith and see what happens. A freelancer artist needs to become a million different things in order to survive. For example, for me to create this entire course, first of all, I need to know my profession, music production, really well. And this in itself can be broken down into different abilities like composition, arrangement, sound design, audio engineering, and so on and so on and so on. And each of these topics can be broken down even more. I need to know how to use my DAW, how to record my voice, how to set up a camera, know how to use different softwares for music production, for recording, for video editing. I need to be efficient with my main working tool, that is my computer. I have to know how to maintain it if something goes wrong, and I could go on and on and on. But all I'm trying to say here is that if I stopped every time that I found something that I didn't know how to do, then this video probably will not exist. I probably wouldn't be doing music full time. Hell, I probably wouldn't even know how to produce music. You have to be really careful when jumping to the conclusion that you cannot do something. There's a big difference between not being able to do something and not knowing how to do something. How often do you hear other people or even yourself saying, "Oh no, I can't do that," when they find something that they haven't even tried before? It's not that you cannot do it. You don't know if you can or you cannot until you try. Everything can be learned to some degree. Like, you cannot become an expert at everything, but you don't need to. You just need to understand the basics of whatever it's involved in a activity that you want to do. Like in my case, recording video. I'm not an amazing video editor. I'm not an amazing camerographer. I can barely speak to the camera without feeling nervous. But I'm able to put these videos together because it's a passion project of mine, and I don't want the fact of, oh, I'm not very good at these things, stopping me from creating this content for you guys. So, yep. This is a relatively new concept for me. I learned this from Cordes King during his Cymatic podcast, but it's such an amazing concept that I had to share it. Everything that you do is practice. A basketball player practices whether he's alone or playing with his team to win the NBA championship. The way you practice when you are on your own, all the habits, all the effort you put into your work, how long can you remain focused, etc., etc., will be reflected during the paid practices you do for your clients. If you are used to check your phone every 5 minutes, then without even noticing, you will be doing that during your sessions. But even if you don't notice that, trust me, the clients notice and they will be really pissed. This is completely unprofessional and most likely they won't want to do business with you anymore. Therapy is not about getting drugged or a therapist telling you how much you are worth and that you should love yourself. At least that's not my case. For me, therapy has been about learning more about myself, more about my irrational behaviors that stopped me from doing what I wanted to do for so many years. I started going to therapy like 1 year ago in a point where my life was turning for the better. And I have already accomplished what only 2 years before seemed like an impossible dream. And yet I could not stop feeling miserable all the time. I could not stop feeling useless and powerless. And it took way too much of an effort to be able to just sit down in front of my computer and start doing what I supposedly love. I just wasn't feeling any enjoyment of my work, even though I knew I already had everything to be really happy. Years of terrible habits left me repeating most of the mistakes I did during my sabbatical, and just watching motivational videos on YouTube wasn't cutting it. The only thing that has really helped me is learning how to rationalize these behaviors and fears of mine. This has allowed me to enjoy once more the creative process just for the sake of creation instead of taking decisions out of fear like, oh, I need money to pay my rent, or I need to work with as many people as possible because I need to make a living. Or even stuff like, oh, I need to get famous to be able to feel successful in my career. Now I'm able to focus much more in my work instead of being inside my head all the time obsessing about my zillion insecurities. And the quality of my work and the consistency of my work has improved so much, and there's still so much to do. This is only the beginning. So yeah, that will be all for today. Thank you so much. Sorry if I got a little too personal, but I feel like this kind of information unavoid only as statements that you should be more effective with your time is not really helpful, especially if you are in a situation where I was when I was like 23, 25 years old. I'm 28 now, if you're wondering, so it wasn't that long ago. It's pretty recent, but I just feel like the changes in my life in the last year or two have been so big that all the other years feel like a lifetime away. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this and if anything of this is helpful to you, then please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Also follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you in the next one.